So I'll hand over to Tania Dalton to facilitate and take us through the age beautifully with movement. Over to you, Tania.
Thanks so much, Faith. Thanks so much for having me. Actually, I'll try to probably make this session fairly interactive. So feel free when I, prompt you to come off mute and share, or pop it into the chat. Maybe Faith can monitor that if that's okay. And yeah, I like people to be involved because I learn something from everyone that I speak to as well about aging well. So we all have such great ideas, and I think it's really good to share. I think we all learn from each other. So I'll just share my screen. Can everyone see that? Great. So I titled this talk Age Beautifully Through Movement. I put a little post on Instagram and LinkedIn yesterday saying that I don't really like talking so much about appearance these days, because I really do believe that beauty is so much deeper than what we see on the outside. And that as a midlife woman, I think that focusing on our health is so much more important than what we maybe look like. However, I do also recognize that we all want to look our best regardless of our age. And when we look and feel our best, it really does impact everything in our life. When we feel good about ourselves, we shine brighter and it makes us feel better. So I think I'm kind of focusing today on how we can age and look and feel our best through movement. So just a little bit about me. I'm a registered personal trainer. I've been a trainer for 30 years now. I'm more recently an accredited health coach. I also do menopause workplace training now. I'm just about finishing my 18-month meditation teacher course. I love 85% dark chocolate, and I do a lot of Kelpie walking. I own a Kelpie who has a neurological disease, so he can't run, so we have to do lots of walking. So I spend a lot of time with my Kelpie. And again, I think embracing the power of movement really can help us become our most beautiful self from within. So just quickly, what we'll cover today, why movement's important as we age, how movement can help us age better on the inside, how it can help us age better on the outside, bonus benefits of movement, what's the best kind of movement for midlife and beyond, because it is it is a little bit different than what we did when we were younger women, how to create a movement regime that works for you, and what else does that say? I can't even see that now. I've lost my screen. Something else. We'll go through it. So first of all, I'd like to really point out the difference between exercise and movement. I talk a lot about movement because I think how we move in our everyday life is really, really important. So exercise is more planned, structured, intentional movement that's intended to improve and maintain our physical fitness. Movement encompasses exercise, but it's much broader, and it's how we move our body throughout the day. So I often talk about people maybe going to the gym twice a week, driving to the gym, parking as close to the door as they can, going into the gym, doing their little workout, coming out, getting back in their car, driving home, and then sitting down for the rest of the week. Whereas if we can actually create more movement in our everyday life, then we're going to gain a whole lot more benefits overall than just perhaps those 2 gym sessions. That's not saying that going to the gym's there's no point in that. There's definitely planned exercise is definitely useful. However, it is also really important, I think, and even more important to think about all of the ways we move our body in everyday life. So just quickly, how do our bodies change as we age? So as you may know, as you may have realized, our bodies change a lot during our menopause transition. I'm not sure about you, but my body has definitely changed. I'd love to know whether anyone else's body has changed as they've gone through their menopause transition or they've been aging. Anyone? Hands up. Yeah. And do you know what? We're always changing. And I think that's something that we kind of need to think about. I think a lot of women are kind of mean to themselves at this time of life. They expect themselves to look like they did when they're 30, but we didn't. When we were 30, we didn't look like we were when we were 12. So we're always going to be changing as we age. And this major hormonal shift and major change in our life stage means that our body will change again. And I think we need to kind of have a little bit of acceptance about that. It doesn't mean that we can't optimize our bodies at this age, but we need to realize that we are going to continue aging, and our body is going to continue changing throughout our lifespan. So as estrogen diminishes, our ability to build and maintain muscle mass, it reduces significantly. We store fat a little differently. If I don't know whether anyone else has noticed it, but I definitely store more fat around my stomach. It can be really annoying because none of my clothes that used to look good anymore. It's very frustrating. I've had to buy a whole new wardrobe. And also our natural stress hormones increase. So our cortisol levels, which is our fight or flight hormone, naturally increases throughout the menopause transition. And therefore, we do need to really consider that in with regards to that movement and exercise we do in our lifestyle. And when our cortisol levels are elevated continuously, it can help us store even more fat around our stomach area, which is not really ideal. And there's also implications with regards to bone density and metabolism. So when we lose muscle mass, our metabolism slows. We're also at increased risk of things like cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, and even dementia. So because of all of that, we may need to take a slightly different approach to fitness as we age, because what worked pre-menopause and when we were younger women often won't work well during menopause and beyond, because we've got a whole different operating system. So just overall, regular movement really does offer us so many benefits. And I doubt that anyone would disagree that exercise is good for us. Doesn't mean we always do it, but I think most people would recognize that exercise is good for us. We build stronger muscles, it boosts our self-esteem, helps to prevent lifestyle diseases, helps us maintain healthy body weight. It does improve our mood, and we do look and feel better. So I love this quote. So movement can really help us age better on the inside. So I love this quote. If exercise could be packaged in a pill, it would be the single most widely prescribed and beneficial medicine in the nation. And I think that we often forget how important exercise can be, exercise and movement can be for our health. And, you know, we'll often go to the doctor, and the doctors treat disease and always provide a medication, whereas hopefully the doctors in the future will start prescribing medicine. I think there's a quote from, I don't know, someone from like, I don't know, hundreds of years ago talking about exercise being, you know, the best medicine. And it really, truly is a fact, because you know, there's no downsides to exercise. There is no side effects to exercise. Every medicine that we take has some kind of risk or some kind of side effect. Exercise has none, but there's so many benefits. So I think it's really important just to recognize that. And I suppose throughout this presentation, my goal is to perhaps help motivate you, if you're not exercising so much at the moment, to really recognize the benefits. And hopefully this presentation will help you realize that you know, it's something that we really should be adding to our life. And even just creating the presentation myself made me go, I think I really need to start doing this and that, because there are so many benefits. So movement does slow the biological clock. So there's lots of research that indicates that movement can help us slow down the aging process on a cellular level, particularly with regards to telomeres. So telomeres are a component of our body that helps to show us how we're aging. So people with shorter telomeres have a older biological age. People with longer telomeres have a better biological age. So what we can do with exercise is, as it shows here, is that people who exercise show that they have longer telomeres. The one thing that I find really exciting, though, is there's some recent research coming out that shows that you can actually revert that. Initially, they didn't think you could change the telomere length, but they actually do think now that you can change telomere length. So with exercise, if you do start now, you can actually make changes. You can maybe possibly even grow telomeres and increase their length. So it's never too late, which is, I suppose, the moral of the story, and something that I'm really passionate about. And I know Faith is passionate about, is that it's never too late. It's never too late to change your lifestyle and exercise more. One of the best things about movement is it can really help to improve your metabolism. So as I mentioned before, the decrease in estrogen and progesterone, along with the general aging process, it triggers metabolic changes. And one of those things is that it decreases muscle mass, and it's really hard to build and maintain muscle after menopause. And with that as well comes the fact that when we have less muscle mass, our metabolism slows, and then we can't eat as much to maintain our body the way it is now. So we need fewer calories to maintain our body, otherwise we start putting on weight. So including resistance training is the optimal way to change our metabolism. Ideally, if you can, fairly heavy strength training, and that's relevant to you. So what might be heavy for me is not what might be heavy for you. So resistance training is one of the best things we can do to help maintain and increase our metabolism, which will then increase our muscle, which will then increase the amount of calories we can eat, and help us avoid gaining excess weight. And I doubt anyone would disagree that movement boosts your mood. So there's lots of good hormones that are released when we exercise, and it really does help to reduce anxiety, improve stress management, and fosters a general sense of well-being and contentment. And it does help to regulate our cortisol levels. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, because sometimes we can go overboard and it can negatively impact our cortisol levels, but generally it helps to regulate our cortisol levels and just helps us look and feel our best. I'm just wondering, I thought I'd maybe open it up here and see whether anyone does notice the difference in their mood if they do exercise. Feel free to come off mute if you want to share.
Definitely, that's me. Sorry, it's Faith. I think for me, exercise is part of my mental health for sure, because I know the difference I feel, and I know that if I'm extra stressed or, upset in any way, exercise shifts that really quickly.
Yeah, I agree, Faith. I've got one of my favorite things is my medicine ball. If I'm in a bad mood or upset at something, I'll go and slam my medicine ball a whole lot of times, and it's such a good stress relief for me. There's other things as well. Actually, I have two opposite ends of the scale. Swimming's very, very stress relieving for me. Slamming medicine balls on the other side is very stress relieving. Anyone else? No? That's okay. Oh,
hello?
Yes.
Hello? Sorry. Hi, guys. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yep.
Hi. Yeah, no, I was actually thinking, I'm completely relate to everything that's already been mentioned by you and Faith in terms of the benefits. And for me, I actually also find that when I'm moving out in the physical world, apart from the wonderful feeling of shaking out the rust, it's actually my meditation. So, when I'm swimming, every morning, I usually am in the ocean by 7, except for today because of the rain. It's where I do my thinking, where I do my creative thinking, where I try and not think, and I actively try and do that. It's almost like my time. It's very precious. So it's got a huge mental health component for me as well. And I also love being out in nature and hearing bird song and exploring by foot the ancient way,
Yeah, I love that. All of those things just resonate so well. And just, again, being in nature, there's so many benefits. And I think swimming's a great one, because I don't know about you, but when I'm walking, I'm often listening to a podcast or something. Swimming, I can't do anything. I just have to be there in my, relaxing and in my own mind and things like that. So swimming.
Yeah, you have to be present. Yeah,
you do.
Yeah.
I was just going to make a comment, Debbie. so, I mean, what Cleo says, I like when I go out walking and stuff, I never listen to anything. It's my sort of silent time, my time to, reflect or process or just daydream. And I notice often a lot of other people, particularly younger people, they're always walking, they've always got earpods in. And I actually had to laugh the other day when I read an article, popped up on Facebook or somewhere, where, there's a new craze and it's called silent walking or something. And, the young people have discovered that you don't have to walk with AirPods in and you can walk in the silence and it's good for you. And I thought that was really funny because, it's been touted as a new thing that you walk in nature and it's good for you and you don't listen to something. Whereas, I don't know, I've never, I suppose, listened to anything when I've walked and just loved. To me, it's at my nature time.
Yeah, I saw that article as well, Debbie. Yeah, we're old school. Oh, that's very funny.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. It's Diana here.
Okay.
I'm first of all sorry I was late. Agree with everything everyone said. I absolutely refuse to listen to podcasts when I'm walking. It's so much nicer to focus on what you're walking in. What for me, I know how good exercise is for me. I know how much it makes me feel better. For me, the issue is, I don't know, for some reason I'm resistant to doing it. So yeah.
We're going to discuss that a little bit later, Diana. Yeah, because you know what? I'm a trainer. I've been a trainer for 30 years. Sometimes I put exercise at the bottom of my list when I'm busy, and it's crazy. It should be at the top of my to-do list. Sometimes at the bottom. So we'll discuss that. And it's it's not always easy. But I think
Awesome. Thank you.
Being open to realize, having that self-awareness is a good start. Anyone else before we move on? Dahlia, hi.
Yes. Everything that was said is wonderful, and I do all of that. But to really get, for me, to have everything in the one package, I do it in the pool because I'm a teacher. I'm an aqua aerobics teacher. I've been teaching since the 1980s, and I take myself to the pool, and I do resistance work with I do push-ups, both pull-ups. I do I run against tons of water. I do all the movements, arms, legs, tummies. I do strength, agility, the whole the full the full. When I come out of, I do in 1 hour, I do 45 minutes sort of.
Oh, I think we've lost Dahlia. Yeah, but I'm not sure whether you can hear us, Dahlia, but you are an inspiration for us all about healthy aging, I think. So thank you for that. We'll just move on, if that's okay. Just quickly, movement, which I'm sure you probably know, it strengthens our immune system. So there's been studies that show that older adults who exercise have an immune profile that's similar to much younger people, and it actually helps. I think one of the best things about exercise is that it helps to increase the blood and lymph flow, and there's a whole lot of different benefits for that, and which includes getting those immune cells around and increasing them. So there's so many benefits, and I think when our immune system's better, obviously you don't look so good when you're not well. So boosting our immune system is definitely a plus. And then kind of what we're talking more about today is how movement can help us age better on the outside. So I think glowing skin is always in, and that is one of the big benefits of exercise. So there's immediate benefits. It enhances our blood flow. And again, as I said, the lymph flow. I'm not sure about you, but I know that there's lots of people who are really hot and sweaty and like bright red after their exercise, and they wouldn't perhaps say they're glowing, but I'm sure that no one can dispute the fact that after exercise, your skin does look better, even if it takes a while to get rid of the redness. And it's not only just the immediate benefits, but there's also studies that show that because exercise helps remove waste products and free radicals, then we can be protected from, our skin can be protected from further damage. And it also creates a thicker dermis and, as again, a heightened immune system activity. So there's proven facts about people who exercise that have actually better skin. And I don't know whether you've noticed it, but I really do feel like you can see people who lead an active life and who don't. Obviously, sunscreen's got a bit to do with it as well. If you can use sunscreen plus exercise, then there's a lot of benefits for that. Movement can actually help us reduce belly fat, even as post-menopausal women. It's probably not, it doesn't mean that your stomach's ever going to be the same as it was pre-menopause, but there's quite a lot of evidence coming out that the combination of strength training, so fairly heavy strength training plus HIIT training, can really assist with body composition management and help to reduce visceral fat. The other thing, I suppose, is taking into consideration that when your cortisol levels are elevated too much, that can actually help us increase belly fat. So we have to combine a few things: strength training, HIIT training, and managing our cortisol levels. With strength training and HIIT training, though, we kind of need to take a slightly different approach to what we might have thought of in the past. So in the past, I think when people put on weight or when we gain weight, we try to overdo things. So we'll go and kill ourselves at the gym for hours or something like that. That's actually counterproductive, and that can actually help our body try to store more fat in this stage of life. So it's more actually beneficial to do shorter sessions, which will elevate our cortisol levels, but then get out of the gym and relax and find those things that help us wind down. So a short strength training session, for example, could be anything from 15 to 30 minutes. And HIIT training, I'm not sure whether anyone knows what HIIT training is, which is it's high intensity interval training, where you might do little spurts of really intense work followed by a little bit of a rest. So one example of that is 20 seconds really fast, 10 seconds really slow. That might be on like a bike, for example, or running on the spot, or running. Or even doing things like medicine ball slams is another way you can utilize HIIT training. And with HIIT training, again, the gyms that do perhaps the F45 gyms and those kind of gyms where you're doing a really hard workout for 45 minutes or maybe even an hour at some gyms, they're kind of counterproductive as well. So with HIIT training, we want to kind of keep it really short again. So it would be more like 15 minutes again. I would definitely not go over half an hour. So if you can combine those kind of two training sessions with adding some protein in afterwards, because we have to kind of manually recreate the way our body builds muscle. So in the past we had estrogen, which helped us build our muscle. Now we don't have that. We have to kind of do it manually. So that's a way. It doesn't suit everyone, but it is a way that we can perhaps change our body composition quite a lot. And there's quite a lot of evidence to show that this is really, really efficient way of doing it. And there's all different ways that we can achieve that. So what I always like to tell people is that just because you might see someone doing, like, for example, a CrossFit workout or something like that, that doesn't mean that you can't replicate those kind of workouts, but to suit your body. So there's all different ways that you can create these kind of stimulus that work with your body. Everything's adjustable and everything's adaptable. And movement, I think everyone would agree, can also improve your posture. So I don't know if there's any prior dancers or gymnasts here, but my daughter was a dancer and a gymnast. She's got the most amazing posture. When we do strength training or forms of exercise, like things like Pilates or yoga or dance or whatever, then we help to develop our core muscles. It helps work on our posture. The other thing with working on our posture is that most of the things we do in our everyday life now are forward. So we're always forward. We're using our phone, we're typing on the computer, we're driving. Everything's a forward motion. So we really need to think about working our back muscles. So just even like this is working our back muscles. And when we can work our back muscles more, so I think one of the things that is recommended is you work your back muscles 3 times more than you work your chest muscles. So if you're at a gym working with the trainer, perhaps go, I've got to do more on my back muscles than my front muscles. So ask them. So feel free to ask. One of the other things I like for women is to be empowered enough to ask questions. If you go, is that really going to work for me? Ask questions to people that you're working with. If you're at a gym with a trainer, ask questions, question things, make them go and look things up. Go, is that the best for me as this in this kind of age group and things like that? Because some trainers aren't trained in working with post-menopausal women and working out what's the best for them. So just ask questions and feel free to question lots of things. And some bonus benefits of movement, all in the bedroom. So exercise has been shown to improve our sleep. It helps us sleep better at night. It helps to decrease the severity of insomnia. I don't know about you, but sleep is one of the biggest issues that I find with most women who have transitioned through menopause, because there is actually a biological fact. We become more sensitive to light. We can't become more sensitive to sound. Our circadian rhythms may be a little bit off. And we also, because we've lost progesterone, it's kind of like our sleep hormone. So it is harder to go to sleep if you haven't realised. But actually, I'd love to know whether anyone does have more sleep problems than they had when they were younger.
For me, it's like not going to sleep and staying asleep. It's actually waking up super, super early, sometimes earlier than I want. I mean, waking up early is good, but because you get a lot done. But sometimes, if I've gone to bed late and I just can't sleep in anymore like I used to when I was younger, and that's sometimes frustrating.
Yeah. I definitely find that. Anyone else want to share about their sleep?
I've always had pretty poor sleep. I go to sleep quite easily, and it's the waking up once I'm awake. I don't get back to sleep, and it's definitely gotten worse as I've gotten older. So, sometimes I probably don't sleep past 4:30 ever. But sometimes it's like 1 a.m. Like if I go to bed at 10 and I'm awake at 1, I know that it's going to be a pretty horrendous day, and it just really throws my motivation and food choices and everything.
I think that creates like such a cycle, doesn't it? Because if you haven't slept well, then you don't feel like exercising, then it kind of impacts everything. So sleep's one of the most, I think, out of everything that I have learned through my menopause transition, is that sleep is one of the most important things that we need to factor in. And I don't know whether Faith has ever had a sleep person on, but it might be a good one to have on, Faith, because sleep is so critical for, I mean, I'm sure everyone agrees, we look so much better when we sleep well. I wake up, if I haven't slept, looking horrendous. So sleep is critical, and exercise can help. Sorry, did anyone else want to share before I just move on? No? Okay. There are a few caveats, I think, here with the sleep, though. I really think that for me, I've found that if I exercise now after 7 o'clock at night, I can't really go to sleep very well. It impacts it. It takes me so much longer now to prepare for sleep. So that is one of the biggest things I've noticed. I used to do personal training sessions till finished at 9 o'clock at night, and then get home and still be able to go to sleep. There's no way I could do that now. So I've had to change my lifestyle to adapt to my new body, I suppose. And prioritizing sleep has been one of them. One of the really great things you can do to help yourself, though, if you can exercise in the morning, that's great. And if you can get exercise outdoors in the morning and get light into your eyes, that really can set you up really well for sleep at night. Because if we can get morning light into our eyes, and also that little bit of exercise, it's working with how our natural body works. So when we wake up, our cortisol levels are slightly risen. And if we can harness that, get light into our eyes and do a little bit of exercise, then it really does signal to our body that it's morning. And then 8 hours later, or whenever it is, it'll go, okay, now it's time to start getting ready for sleep. So we can make a big difference just by these simple little things. And what I find a lot of women struggle with is, yeah, but I didn't have to do that before. And I go, well, that's fine, but our bodies operate differently now. So we have to adapt and change to how our body works now. And if we can get those little tweaks in, it can make a big difference overall. It might not happen straight away. Obviously, things like that take a while. It takes a while to reset your body clock. But if you can start thinking about perhaps exercising in the morning, I go for a walk outdoors in the morning every day because I've got my Kelpie, so he makes me. But it definitely helps. If I don't do that, I feel kind of crappy for the rest of the day, and then I never sleep well at night. So just one little tip to maybe try. And then movement jumpstarts your sex drive. So I'm not sure whether anyone else has found that, you know, once our reproductive years are gone, our body doesn't really care about reproducing and doesn't really care about sex as much now. So the blood flow doesn't kind of work as well. Nothing works as well. We're not as responsive. So exercise, because it helps our blood flow, it can actually help our sexual function. And it also, I don't know, if you can exercise with your partner, that's great for developing deeper connection. And I think exercise, I don't care how big I am or what my body really looks like, but if I feel kind of fit and healthy, I feel so much better about my body, and I'm probably more likely to be happy being naked. So that's just another little tip that I really think that people who exercise have a better body image, and having a better body image, from what I've spoken to a lot of women, our body image gets a real hit in midlife. And if we can feel better about ourselves, then we're probably more likely to want to be intimate. So I just thought I'd have a quick little break here, and Tania, we're going to just do one little activity because I forgot to do this at the start. I always try to do an activity at the start. So if you can, I know Dolly is on the floor, so she might not be able to get up and down, but if you can, so just stand up. If you're sitting down, great. Sit down again. So just going to do it 5 times. And if you can, put your hands over your head, because every time you put your hands over your head, that actually increases your heart rate quite a lot. So this is a really simple way to an exercise. Great. So what we've done is just done 5 squats. And I think squatting is one of the most important forms of exercise we can do, because I never want to be in a nursing home not able to get out of my chair and get to the toilet and have to wait for someone to take me to the toilet. And squatting, when we get up and down from our chair, that is squatting. So whatever form of exercise you do, add squatting into your life, because no one wants to be in that nursing home not able to get out of their chair. So biggest tip of my life. So now, what's the best type of movement for midlife women? And what's the best type of movement for you? So I think that's really something to think a lot about. So I'll just go through kind of the optimal things. These are the optimal things. That doesn't mean it's optimal for you. So ideally, if we can add, like I mentioned before, strength training, if we can add some HIIT training, which is the high intensity interval training, and if we can add some plyometric training, so that is jump training, that's because our bone density takes a big hit after our menopause and as we age. If we can do some form of plyometrics, that is ideally multi-directional jumping movements, so side to side jumping movements, or jumping on a skipping rope. People go, well, isn't running and walking is good for our bones? And it kind of is, but our body adapts to that really quickly because we're just doing going in one way all the time. And so our body adapts really quickly. So what we're trying to do when we exercise is actually we actually damage our body a little bit when we exercise, and it gets stronger as it recovers. So we're trying to create tiny little micro bits of damage by doing different things, and therefore our body has to grow and get stronger to adapt. And that's how we can maintain and build bone, muscle, and create a healthier body. So a lot of people I know can't do jumping movements because of whatever, all different conditions. I have an osteoarthritic toe joint, makes things a little bit hard. I can still do some things, but there's other forms of plyometrics like medicine balls. So slamming a medicine ball or throwing one against a wall is a form of plyometric. Boxing is a great form of plyometric. So I've worked with a lot of clients who aren't really very mobile, but they can punch really hard. So they're creating a a punching movement creates a stimulus to actually help build bone and things like that. So that's just a few ideas. Like I said, these things are all adaptable. So it's really important to realize that, you know, there's optimal things, but then everything's adaptable. And with other formal exercise, I'd love to know if there's any other kinds of formal exercise that people like to take part in, or whether they're wondering whether it's useful or not.
So I like to do pump.
Yep.
I wonder if that's good for the age, for our age.
Yeah, pump's good. So pump is really, I think anything's, do you know what, there's no bad things. This is what I think. There's no bad things. If you could do some like 15 minutes here and there, Faith, of a really kind of heavy weightlifting, like things that with heavy weightlifting, what that means is something you can only lift maybe 6 times before it's too hard. And you could add that, like you could do your pump and then maybe one day a week do something where you're trying to lift something a little bit harder or push something a little bit harder. Like even if it's a leg press, if you can't use free weights, like, you know, the leg press machine at a gym where you can only push that leg press 6 times, then you'll get a lot of benefits. Or like, you know, like a lat pull down. So where you can only do it like 6 times and it's too hard. So things like that. So pump's really good, but if you could add maybe even just one session a week where you're doing something, even just for 15 minutes or something, where it's a little bit harder.
Yeah, my main issue right now is I've got a dodgy right knee.
Yep.
So I've been seeing the physio for a while, but I'm just about to step it up, and I think I want to have the surgery. But it's just really impacted what I do. So I don't do anywhere near as much as I normally do, but I've got weights at home, and I do wall Pilates with weights pretty much most mornings, as well as my swims.
Yeah, you do a lot. You're good. But yeah, do you know what? And that's the whole thing. We have to work with our body and work with what's right for our body. So, for example, I can't really do a lunge anymore because my toe joint, it kind of collapses, and it's really hard to do a lunge these days. So I have to do different things than a lunge. So that's one of the things that I don't do. So we just need to adapt and work with what body we've got in this moment. Anyone else before I move on?
Yeah, Diana here. You talking about your toes is what prompted this. I'm having terrible trouble with my feet at the moment. It's quite debilitating. I've got plantar fasciitis in one foot, and then I've got a plantar plate injury in the other, which is affecting my metatarsals. Right, so both feet, and it makes everything really difficult.
Yeah.
I can't walk long distances anymore. I mean, I can get in the pool, which is good, and I can do sitting down exercises, obviously. But yeah, your feet, you just got to take them for granted your whole life, and then suddenly they tell you, hey, we're not happy.
Yeah, it's a thing. There's so many women women our age that have got feet problems. I mean, I wore heels for 20 years when I worked.
Yeah, me too.
Insane. Like I look now and I go, what was I doing that for? Because that's caused my feet problems. So I don't wear heels anymore. I only wear flat shoes. And it's frustrating. I get your frustration. There are lots of things, like perhaps, it's great that you have thought about being in the pool. That is a really great thing. There's cycling, I suppose. It is hard. It's debilitating if you can't walk, because I think that's I'll share that in a minute. It's one of my favorite forms of exercise. So I feel for you, Diana. It can't be easy.
Yeah, I've also got, I've already had bilateral knee replacements. So it's like,
right.
What next?
Yeah. I suppose just recognizing that, and it's good. It sounds like you're really proactive and that you're thinking about ways that you can move. That as frustrating as it is, that the alternative of not moving is that you're going to become even more immobile, and that's not going to serve you. So it sounds like you're kind of thinking that way anyway yourself.
Yeah. I had to be very brave to enroll in a seniors exercise class, but I do that.
I know I nearly had a heart attack the other day when I qualified to go to a seniors thing, but I did. So anyway, that's good. It's great. It's a new stage of life.
Exactly.
Okay. And then there's incidental movements. So this is kind of my favorite form of movement of all time, because as I said earlier, if we can move more in our everyday life, that really can impact our health and wellness so much. So I think if people know about the blue zones, these areas in the world where people live regularly till over 100 and they live really well, you'll find that probably the biggest thing that's all the same in these areas in the world, although their diets are all different, they move a lot. So moving is one of the keys for us living and looking great and living our best life. So as I said, I walk my dog. Chili gets walked 3 times a day usually. So that's really good for me. I do things like parking further away at the supermarket. That's one of the things I've always done. At the shopping centre, I park further away just to add little bits of more steps. I know it's hard for someone like you, Diana, to do that. Walking upstairs or escalators where you can, rather than catching lifts or standing there. And gardening is one of my favourite forms of movement ever. If you follow me on Instagram, you might see that I pop up some gardening reels occasionally, because you move in all different ways. So I'm squatting down to weed. I am up and down a ladder trying to chop down some things off trees. I have a few standard plants, so I've got my little clippers going all the time, and I'm moving and I'm carrying like bags of soil or mulch or something like that. And so I'm turning and moving in all different ways, and it's just happening naturally. And I find gardening, it's one of my kind of call it my therapy. I find gardening quite therapeutic. So I would love to have, if anyone's got some ideas about other forms of incidental movement, so how you can move more in your everyday life, or how you might move more in your everyday life. I know there has to be some. Everyone's got some of these.
How about just cleaning the house and vacuuming?
Yes, cleaning is the best exercise. I don't do it very much, but when I do it, it's like, oh my God, that's a good workout.
I was going to say the same thing, because sometimes I Airbnb, and if the cleaner's not available, I do it. And it actually feels like a gym workout, because I love strength training. And I roll a movie, and it's 2 hours of solid. I never stop for a moment.
Yeah, cleaning's a great I don't have a cleaner, but I actually don't clean. My house is really not very clean, so I don't clean it very much. It's not one of my priorities, but yeah. And I always say, this is one thing I often say to people, you're paying someone else. If you get someone to mow your lawn, you're paying someone to do their exercise, to do your exercise. If you go to a car wash and sit in the cafe and have a coffee while someone else is doing it all, you're paying someone to do your exercise. So just, it's something to think about. I mean, I get it. Some things aren't fun, so you don't want to do them, but you are paying someone else to do your exercise. You're paying someone else to get healthy.
I do Airbnb too, in my apartment, and very busy. So I'm cleaning every day and making beds, and actually it's incredible exercise actually.
Yeah. Yeah, my mum is 79, and she hasn't never really done any formal exercise, but she lives in this ridiculously big house for one little old lady, and she's a cleaning addict. She's always cleaning and washing the floors and mows her own lawns, and she's quite fit and healthy because she's just a compulsive cleaner and stuff. So yeah, it can definitely help your health. Monique, did you want to share?
Yeah, I think this is not so much with movement, we're just more with stretching. I've always been the type of person who's like, I've got to get down on the mat and do a whole bunch of intricate yoga moves that I've known for 30 years. And I've just been a little bit immobile lately. And then I've just kind of gone back to just doing simple neck heads. It's not my neck that's a problem, but I just I always dismiss the simple ones.
Yeah.
But then actually they work. You just kind of got to relax and trust that they're doing something. So I just want to share that, because I've dismissed them for 30 years.
I agree. Do you know what? I have this philosophy that really health isn't that hard, and the simple things are the key things. Like all of that, you might see all this fancy stuff. Well, what about, people go, what about this, what about that? I go, how about just start moving? And how about just start moving simply? That's kind of the key. Like, a lot of people will go, oh, I need to do this and I need to do that, but then they don't do anything because they're kind of trying to find the next best thing. But really, if we can create a simple lifestyle that we can maintain for a long time, for 30 years or whatever, that it can really help. So yeah, That's great, Monique.
I also I run or walk to the, if I need some groceries and I have, there is a shop a couple of kilometers away. I will go there. I'll pick up the stuff. Go. I don't mind. I can go a couple of times a day, and that keeps me, when I need my groceries.
You're great, Dahlia. You're an inspiration. You sound like my neighbour who has 10 children. I just saw her this morning. She's 8 kilometres down to the closest beach to us. She rides down every morning and goes swimming and rides back, and she doesn't use her car at all. Her contribution to the environment is not using her car. So I see her walking over to the supermarket. She does everything. She's got 10 kids and she still is doing all of that. Makes me feel. And she's fabulous. She's so.
I wish I had 10 kids.
Okay. And then, as I was saying to Diana before this, I was going to talk about is that don't underestimate the power of walking. It really is one of the most simple and strategic things we can do for our health. So there's so many benefits to our body and mind. It's simple and easy. There's no downside. And if you can do it, then just trying the simple things like parking just a few things over at the supermarket, a few parks further away at the supermarket, all those little steps add up. So if you use a watch to check your steps, then you can see how quickly it can add up. It's easy. I think what I find with a lot of people is that it's really easy to be busy. Like sometimes I'll think, I am running around like a maniac today. I'm so busy. And then I'll look down, I'll go, haven't done any steps. But on the other hand, if I go, okay, I'll just take the dog for a quick walk around the block once in the middle of the day, and I might do that a few times, it adds up again really quickly. So it's good to be able to just at least be aware of what you aren't doing and what you are doing. And then, sorry, did you want to say something, Monique? Or?
I've just got a question to...
Yes.
Sometimes movement for me so for example, if I'm walking to the shops, that's fine. But if I go for a bushwalk, sometimes I'm going into my head and it's actually counterproductive and I'm not, but if I can power walk and then get to that 45 minutes, so get that release. But some things that are meant to be meditative and calming, like a bushwalk, I find actually, I'm just wondering if there's any ideas around that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Is it because you're worried about maybe falling or something like that? Like, are you stressed about tripping over?
Just about life stuff. It's like so when I'm doing yoga, I'm in the present moment because I'm engaged with muscle alignment and that. But when I meditate, I don't, like, I'm one of those few people who don't meditate. My brain just, there's like 5% of people who shouldn't meditate, and I'm one of them. My brain actually just goes in the complete opposite to what it should be doing. But if I'm engaged in my body, yeah,
that's really interesting. Maybe you're one of those people that maybe, I don't know, either listening to music or listening to a podcast might be helpful when you're walking, because then it's kind of, because it's not that kind, because it's kind of giving you the opposite of what you normally think. That might help. I don't know, it might be worth trying.
Okay.
Yeah. So creating a movement regime that works for you. So I think this is so important. It's, I can tell you the most ideal things to do, but we have to find what's right for us. And I always like to remind everyone that we're unique. So especially as midlife women, by the time we get to this age, we have decades of stuff that makes up who we are now. So it's genetics, it's our culture, it's our lifestyle choices that we've made over decades, circumstances, injuries, medical conditions like my toe joint and Diana's feet. So what's appropriate for someone else may not work for you. And it really is important to find what works for your body and your lifestyle. And this is one of the things that I really like to work with my clients with, is finding your why. So why do you want to be fit and healthy? Why do you want to move your body? And as Diana was saying before, sometimes it's really hard. Like, everyone knows they should exercise. Everyone knows they should eat relatively healthy, but it's sometimes really hard to do. I find myself putting my exercise at the bottom of my to-do list sometimes. And I know that if I want to live a long, healthy life, then I need to make exercise, it needs to be up the top of my to-do list, not down the bottom. And working out our why is one of the ways we can do that. So for me, my why is I love hiking. I went with my daughter who just finished year 12 last year. We went to New Zealand and went hiking on this 4-day hike where we had to carry all of our stuff, and it was just amazing. It was so amazing that I'm so appreciative that even though I have got my toe joint problem, that I am fit and healthy enough to be able to do things like that. And I want to do lots of hiking for the rest of my life. My other why is sightseeing on foot around the world. I was just in New York earlier this year, and I usually forget to take my charger for my watch, but I realized that I had done, I think it was averaged out to be 19 kilometers of walking every day for the 2 weeks we were there. So that's one of my whys. So finding our why is so important. And I would love to go through everyone else's whys, but we're running out of time. So I might, if we get a chance at the end, I'd love to actually come back to that and talk about whether you know what your why is. And I always like to reiterate that the most important type of movement and exercise is anything that brings you joy. So there's no point doing stuff that you hate, because you're never going to maintain it. And what we're trying to do is create a healthy lifestyle that we can continue for the rest of our life. The one caveat there is that sometimes you do things that you might not like in the moment, but you love afterwards. So when I was taking my group training classes, a lot of the women complained and moaned the whole way through, and then at the end they go, that was great, I loved it. So sometimes we may have to do forms of movement, or we may do forms of movement that we don't love in the moment but we love afterwards. And just that picture there is the hoop. That's what brings me joy. I love hooping, so I add hooping into my workouts all the time. It's the start of my workout and sometimes throughout my workout. And balance is another thing. So we're trying to find a balance between moving, resting, play, and that's where everything kind of comes together. So as I was kind of getting to before, when we transition through menopause, our cortisol levels are naturally risen. When we exercise, that raises our cortisol levels a little bit again. So we can't overdo it. So if we're trying to do too much, if we're exercising all the time and not giving our body time to rest, then that's really detrimental to us, particularly as we're aging. So it's about trying to find the balance about what's right for you. And then habits and rituals are really important. So again, I know Diana was talking about, it's really hard to actually implement stuff, and it is really hard. Behavior change and habit creation, it takes time. And as I said before, by the time we get to to midlife, we have decades of habits, good and bad, that we've created. And to create change is not going to be easy. So recognizing that, I think, is really important. And we need to be, sometimes we're very hard on ourselves. Sometimes we go, why can't I just do that? I know I need to do it, but why can't I do it? Just recognizing that it's not going to be easy to create change, but it is possible, and that change isn't linear. So we're not going from here to here. We're going to be going up and down, up and down. And I think one of my things that I like to really share with my clients is that, there's going to be times when we go back down here, but then we can come back up again, and it's not all over. So I feel a lot of people kind of give up if they kind of go off the rails a little bit. They'll give up altogether, and that's not what life's about. It's always going to be going up and down. There's going to be times when everything's going great and we're doing all of the great things for our body, and then there's sometimes, for whatever reason, that we're not. But to just keep moving up is kind of, I think, really, really important. And this is my favorite saying, is to view movement not as an inconvenience, but as an opportunity. This is our opportunity to live our best lives, and movement can help us do that. So just something to think about. My challenges for you today is to identify your why for moving, and think about one way you can add more just incidental movement into your everyday life starting today. So I'm going to try to park further away at the supermarket when I have to go to the supermarket later. And then also consider, perhaps, if you can, maybe adding one kind of formal exercise to your week. And that doesn't mean you have to go to a gym or something. It could just mean, maybe like we were doing the squats there, 3 times a day when you are going to your table, do some squats. So adding something that is kind of intentional to help increase your health and life. Sorry, I thought I had heaps of time when I practiced earlier. I had heaps of time, but we had really good conversations. I'll just quickly share that I'm co-hosting a retreat in Crete in May 2024, and I'm really excited about this. I'm doing it with a lady from the UK, Rachel Lancaster, who is a midlife and menopause expert. She's, I think, 57 or 58. I'm 55. Anyway, it's going to be an amazing week. We're going to do some fun exercise sessions. We're doing some cultural tours where there's some empowering women that we go, older women that we go and see. It's going to be amazing. So if you're interested in that, that's the QR code. And I think Faith's going to share that tomorrow as well. So have a look at that. Contact me if you've got any queries. There, I'm finished. We've got 3 minutes for any questions. And I would love, I think one of the most important things is sharing your why. But if you've got any other questions, also please let me know. Yes, Monica.
When you were talking about too much.
I'm just sorry to interrupt for a moment. Can we, oh, thank you. Thank you. I just want to stop sharing. Go for it.
Okay. When you're talking about too much exercise with the cortisol, and then you were talking to Faith, I just got a little bit confused. So if you're doing an hour at the gym and you do strength, and then maybe do 20 minutes like cardio and 40 minutes strength, obviously you're resting in between the sets and that type of thing. Is that too much cortisol? I just got a bit confused as to.
Yeah, I would probably say I'd spend maximum an hour at the gym if you go to the gym at one time. Yeah, I wouldn't. Overdoing it's just not. It doesn't serve us really. So yeah, I'd break that up. So if you did a pump class one day and then did a strength just on another day, just popped in and did something else, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't work out for an hour and a half, mind you. I say that while recognizing that I also trained for an Ironman triathlon as a post-menopausal woman, and I had to do lots of really long distance stuff. So on the days where I did have to do those long distance things, then I would make sure the next day I basically did nothing. So my body recovered, if that makes sense. So we just have to be a little bit more intentional. It doesn't mean you can't do longer things or longer sessions. So if you did want to do a day at the gym, but just make sure that you balance that out and don't do that every day, and make sure there's some rest maybe the next day, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And also I don't know if other ladies have experienced this, but I find that if I do too much things that contract my muscles, which is strength training, then if I don't get a massage in or some yoga in, things start to go a bit wonky over time, where that never happened when I was younger.
Yep. It's great that you recognize that that's what you need for your body now. Like I said, we're changing all the time, so you've got to find what works right for your body in the moment and for the time you are now. So it's great that you have the self-awareness and awareness of your body, that you know that that's what you need.
Yeah. And I know I'm hogging that one. I just wanted to say, actually, all of you are making me feel better, because I get very frustrated with my my fitness journey and hearing everyone's little stories, which, you know, some of you are going through trials. I've got my own trial, but I haven't. Yeah, I think we're all doing really well. So.
Do you know what? The idea is that we're just trying to create this lifestyle that we can, you know, and we're recognizing that it's not easy, and that there's going to be down parts and things are going to happen. Things are going to happen in our life. My family's been really sick, so I haven't exercised as much as I would like to. Stuff like that. Stuff's going to happen. We're just all doing our best. Anyone else?
Beautiful. Anyone else? Maybe we'll do one more question, and then what I'll do is I'll turn off the recording, and then Tania, you can let us know whether you want to stay for a bit longer.
Yeah, I'm happy to stay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so who would like to go?
Question. So since having my major hip surgery, I have found a new lease of life towards moving, and I really relate to everyone and Monique, because I have this set idea of how much I should exercise, and I've always fallen short. You know, I'm not up at 5 a.m. doing an hour of yoga practice or meditating for half an hour. So I've been all or nothing a bit. But now I'm so excited to be moving and walking, and I have always just done. So I am someone who listens to podcasts. I listen to music because the noise in my mind can be very detrimental to me, and so I find it helpful but sometimes overly distracting as well. But I dance. Like, I will walk out in nature and I find myself kind of relatively secluded. I will just dance to a piece of music and get a sweat going. And I don't even care. And I've done that since my sister was unwell 10 years ago with ovarian cancer. And it's been something, I think, dealing with death and grief, you just don't give a fuck anymore. And who cares how I look? If I look like I've just been let out of the psych hospital, so be it.
I love that, Sasha. That's great. And do you know what? That's what it's all about. Like, being able to just move naturally is amazing. Like, that's the best kind of movement. And obviously it helps your body, mind, everything. So yeah, it's great. I love that. And I love that I think this is one of the bonuses of midlife, is that you care less about what people think, and it doesn't really matter. That's why I did my Ironman. I was always scared of coming last or looking like an idiot, but midlife has allowed me to be able to go out there and go, it doesn't matter, someone has to come last. Yes,
I can see Cleo and Diane has had their hands. So Cleo, you go next, and then we'll come back to Diane, and then we'll.
Something that came up for me that was really interesting that you were talking about was, you're wanting to create a better elderly period for yourself if you're in a home, not being able to independently move to the loo, which would be so confronting and so heart-wrenching, And I was thinking about, Faith and I often go to the Coogee Women's Pool, and we went for years, and you'd see these wonderful sprightly women that were really decades older than us, like little mountain goats going up and down. And I've traveled in Scandinavia and seen these fabulous women, not a gram of fat, they've been going ice swimming every day or in the sauna, just people that have a practice. And then I remember contrasting it with when I was once on the Queen Mary, and there was a floor downstairs where people in Zimmer frames that weren't able-bodied tended to eat, and they tended to stick together, and they were the same age. And I realized how being able-bodied is the air, we take it for granted, like the oxygen that we breathe, but it's everything. It's everything. And my grandmother actually lost the use of her body by just stopping to move and gaining a lot of weight. And I realize, as fun as it is in the moment to feel the wonderful endorphins and to have the fitness benefits, it really is putting money in the bank for later too.
It's so true. It really is so true, because you do, even I think in midlife, you'll see people, now is the time where we start seeing the difference between where people have been more active and where people haven't. But this is an opportunity. This is our opportunity, because what we do in the next 10 years or so of our life sets us up for living well in the future. And I want to be one of those people out there, climbing up mountains. I do not want to be in a nursing home. No. Not being able, like, my husband was just in hospital, and there was several older women, and there was just accidents nonstop because they couldn't get themselves out of bed. It's devastating. And to think of that when we can move our bodies and not let that happen. And it's simply really up to us. Do you know what I mean? It's, obviously things are going to happen, but probably 90% is up to us of how we live in the future. And
all those Greek and Japanese villages where people make it to 110, they all tend to be active.
Yeah,
they're all running around with buckets of water and going up and down hills.
Yeah. We need to move.
Thank you. Let's do Diana, and then we'll close off.
Sure.
Thanks. No, I just wanted to respond to Sasha. Sasha, when the slide saying joy was shown, the first thing that popped into my head was dancing. So dancing is a great form of joy, and it's something that I do around the house. I love music, and I dance around the house. Sadly, it's a bit more constrained now than it used to be because of my feet, but I still dance. Yeah.
That's great. That's great, Diana. I just love dancing. It's great. And that's what it is. Like, you're moving in all different ways. It's like, you don't have to be doing that's what I always try to get across. Formal exercise is fabulous, but there's a whole lot of other ways we can move our body that can bring us joy.
Beautiful. Okay, that brings us to end. We're going to close off, and if anyone wants to hang around and Tania doesn't mind, we'll do that.
Right.
But my takeaway is I've inspired because I was going to jump in the car, to go to the supermarket, but I'm now going to walk, and it's 15 minutes away. Carry my load back, and that's going to be my exercise for the day. So thank you for that. And I also got so much out of it. I love what you said about ask questions, personal trainer, because I had that personal trainer that was telling me to do things contrary to what you suggest, and I came to you and you put me right. So really, really grateful for your help. Yeah, so thank you for that. Let me just close off, and I'll just
I'm happy to hang around if anyone wants to chat about anything.
Yeah. Let me just end the record. Okay.